The Texas Longhorns, they lose some pieces offensively when it comes to what they had in 2024 to what they'll have in 2025, especially when you talk about the weapons out wide. And that might be some cause for concern for some folks. The way that we're looking at this thing, though, if you're a Texas fan, I think you should feel pretty good. We'll talk about why you should feel pretty good here throughout this segment. Before we do that, though, make sure you're subscribed to the On3 YouTube channel, Texas fans. If you want to see more Texas content, the best way for us to know that is by you subscribing to the channel. So we appreciate you in advance for being subscribed. So Texas loses their top 3 receivers from a year ago, one of which being Gunnar Helm. All right. So you look at that production that you lose and you look at who you have at quarterback next year. You're like, hey, Archer's going to be great. We feel good about him. However, like, who's he throwing the football to is, I think, maybe the flyover take for some of the college football public. Also, you look at what Texas didn't do in the portal, which is a little bit uncharacteristic compared to previous seasons. And you're sitting there saying, hey, are we just going to run the heck out of this thing? Is this going to be, the Arch Manning dink and dunk show? Like, how are we going to make this all go? I know we got Ryan Wingo. We feel good about him, but, like, Jetty, what's this going to look like? I wouldn't be all that worried. And the reason why is what I just said a second ago. Texas, the last couple of seasons, what have they done? Made some splashy portal ads. 2 years ago, you go get Adonai Mitchell from Georgia. You're like, okay, we got him with Xavier Worthy. We're off to the races. This past cycle, you go get a Silas Bolden, Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden. Okay, hey, we're rolling now. Those guys had a pretty sizable impact. Isaiah Bond, you wish had stayed healthy, but Matthew Golden may end up being a first-round pick here when it comes to this upcoming draft. So, obviously, Texas more or less hit with that portal cycle. But Texas not going to the transfer portal to grab a wide receiver, I understand some of it may be there wasn't a guy that you could add that would bring up to your standard internally at Texas, but how you move in the portal should tell you, as a college football fan, how you feel internally about your roster. And Texas just sitting back and saying, no, we're cool. We're just going to roll with who we have. That should be frightening for the rest of college football. Because Steve Sarkisian and Texas overall, they know how it looks to have what they need in that wide receiver room. Like, let's just read off some of the receivers that Steve Sarkisian has coached. Devontae Smith, yes, Heisman Trophy winner. That probably works okay. Xavier Worthy, Adonai Mitchell, we mentioned, Matthew Golden. If Texas didn't have what they need, they'd be able to go make some moves now. Like, for Texas not going to the transfer portal and not adding somebody, if they wanted to, they could have. Financially, we know they could have. Also, let's say this too. Texas is probably a wide receiver destination. Based on all those names I just mentioned, it's probably a thing you would like to do if you want to help your draft stock. Go play at Texas and go play with that Steve Sarkisian offense. The lack of activity, I think, is the most telling with how they feel internally. And this is always my stance when you talk about coaches and the side of the ball they specialize in. If Steve Sarkisian feels good about his room at wide receiver to where they don't need to add anybody, you should feel good about it too. Like, you kind of just trust the recommendation of sorts here. Like, that's my stance here on this show when it comes to where we go out to eat whenever the video team decides to go somewhere, to have dinner somewhere. Cato, we trust you. You pick the spot. We're going there. And usually, 100% of the time so far, the hit rate is creme de la creme. We're in good shape. So that's the same way Texas fans should feel. There would be a sense of urgency here to get Arch what he needed if you felt like you had to do some more. Now, let's look at the room in itself. There's a lot of guys now that may not have the same amount of proven production that you're used to given previous seasons, but you should feel very confident in what you have from a talent level. Like Ryan Wingo, went over 16 yards a catch last year. I mean, half blind. The dude's out here just running routes in Braille, having over 16 yards a catch. You got DeAndre Moore, 7 touchdowns last year. Khalil Lockett, he'll be a freshman, a 5-star freshman, mind you. Jamie French finished as a top 10 wide receiver in the industry rankings. Like, they have a lot of talent in this room. Now, a subplot to watch within this, I do think that Texas will at least consider taking a tight end via the transfer portal. But even that, if Steve Sarkisian doesn't go grab somebody, okay, I trust who's in that room. I trust Steve Sarkisian. I trust the recommendation. I also truly believe that if you're talking about what Texas wants to be offensively, we think about Sark, and I've said this before, we think about Sark, we see the dope fits, we see the glasses, we see the quarterback pedigree, and we just automatically assume, oh, they want to throw the ball all over the place. And that might be the case. Maybe they will. Far be it for me to say that won't be the case. But what they have been historically and what they were last season, they were a punch-you-in-the-mouth kind of outfit. Like, they didn't have, I don't believe, the ability to throw the football downfield as much as they wanted to last season. Part of that could be because Quinn Ewers' oblique sounds like it was in two separate pieces. Not a good deal if you're a quarterback. They just ran the ball. It was Wisner. It was Blue. It didn't really matter. They just imposed their will on you. Now, I understand you lose some stuff up front for Texas, but I don't think that attitude's going to change. Like Steve Sarkisian, I believe just about every single season he's coached football has had a 1,000-yard rusher. Last year was no exception. So Texas, offensively, when it comes to what they can do at the receiver position, it might be a thing where you get some open looks downfield because of how well you run the ball. Like, to pair that with Arch Manning and what he can do running the football himself, I think Texas will be a run-to-pass outfit. I think they will be a RPO kind of option. And so if you're telling me all I got to do if I'm Ryan Wingo is go beat the coverage where a safety creeps up and bites on the run, I got to beat my man one-on-one, and that's all I got to do to score, hey, we're going to be listening to the Texas Fight song quite a bit here in the fall. So do you have the same activity in the portal that you're used to? Do you have the same proven production like you did in past seasons where you got Xavier Worthy coming back and all that? Not necessarily, but the lack of movement, the lack of urgency from Texas should speak volumes to how they feel about what they have in that room when it comes to the wide receiver position. So are you worried about the weapons at Texas? I wouldn't be. And that's a big reason why I think a lot of people are buying stock in them to be a national title contender in 2025, and we feel no different. So make sure you're locked in here, Texas fans. Again, if you want to see more content like this around Texas, make sure you're subscribed. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. For Cato on the food Rex and the ones and twos. For myself, JD PicKell, we appreciate y'all. Love y'all. We'll keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.